But this is the Between Night Visitors. I'm not sure what part, to be honest. It's been a few weeks. I'm not sure, but it'll have the right number on YouTube, so fear not, viewers. So recapping from last time, it has been a few weeks, and also Alicia wasn't with us last time, and so some big things happened. The biggest thing probably is that sadly our player Dan could no longer be with us because of a job opportunity, and so we had to have a send-off of Dan's character, Mr. Taliford, and we did have a big dramatic send-off whereby basically Mr. Taliford sacrificed himself to bring Mr. Nelson back from the curse, and then Mr. Nelson, in an emotional scene, sort of like, you know, cradled Mr. Taliford while he died, and then left back to America. So that is what's going on. That's what happened there. Taking a look at the active threads, we have just the Creature of Cromorn Gardens and Fig's Pigs, both of which are pretty close to being resolved. We know that the Creature of Cromorn Gardens, that the creature is a hoax. Hargrave House believes that essentially Thomas Simpson has been buying up property in a very aggressive way in order to expand Cromorn Gardens, and someone is trying to stop that. And so that's why this creature sort of like hysteria is happening. They're making that happen. So the question is, who's perpetrating the hoax and why? And the opportunity is to resolve the threat by laying a trap for the perpetrator and unmasking them. Very Scooby-Doo, right? And then for Fig's Pigs, we have one, all the questions are answered. At this point, we just need to get Patrick Fig out into the open and then capture or destroy him. Green was going to try to do that, but Green got waylaid by Theodora sent her man to go retrieve the Limehouse lurker, who is currently being held prisoner in Hargrave House. So her man, whose name I can't remember, but I'll remember it in a moment. I know he only speaks in questions. That's his weird thing. He came and tried to like get the Limehouse lurker. Adrian, did he get the Limehouse lurker or no? Everything was distracted by the Mr. Taliford, Mr. Nelson thing, right? So I think that
there also was this action scene of, I think, wasn't there was some kind of scene where Green got into the room and kind of pushed the door.
That's
closed
right. Yeah.
for them and put the lurker into the cupboard, I think, and
right.
that sort of thing. So
yeah.
So somehow, so that the guy knows that what is up in a certain way, but he could.
But he ran because Mr. Nelson, as a giant spider, entered Hargrave House, and Mr. Taliford and Mr. Sylvestris had to battle it, and then Mr. Taliford, of course, brought Mr. Nelson back from the curse. That was that. And now Mr. Quinn is back from doing whatever leisurely thing Mr. Quinn was doing while all this drama was going on in Hargrave House. And so that's exciting. But that's where we're at as far as all that goes. What kind of animal did we determine Patrick Fig was? I don't recall. It's something that makes nests, I believe, possibly. Or I'm thinking of another. Or no, it was a dog. I don't remember.
I vaguely remember dog. That
I think it might be a dog. I might be thinking of another.
Yeah, I think so. There was something like that. Yeah, I think it was the dog.
Yeah, I definitely think that one of the clues we had was around nesting materials, but I think we leaned away or interpreted that differently. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I don't recall either. Oh, I think we thought that like he was behaving like a farm dog, right? Like a sheepdog or
something,
a farm dog, like that. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, great. Let's take a look at conditions right now. Well, poor Mr. Nelson's not with us. Green has Theodora wants the lurker back. That's very specific, and always the last to leave. Mr. Quinn has the blood of Julius. Oh, that's intriguing because you actually have the blood of Julius in you. That's a thing from a while back, which we might explore. And most beloved. And then Mr. Sylvestris has drained. Do we find you in this day phase, like back in the spectral realm, Mr. Sylvestris? Is that what's going on?
So since I marked my moss covered gate, that's why I'm drained. So I
Oh,
was
you
able to
just
unmark my
take drain
boxes.
now. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay, and so you don't have to actually disappear for the day phase.
But I don't think he'll bother manifesting during the day.
Just
It was an eventful time.
hanging out in the spectral realm. Good, I like it. Okay, that sounds great. I guess I should pick a new threat to do. Let me pull up my various things I need for the game. Try to remind myself. For people watching the video, we just released season 2 of The Between on drive-through, so go look for that. And season 3 came out just today in Patreon, so that's also very cool. Kind of want to do a season 3 one. I think that'd be kind of fun, especially since I just read them. I'm all set for those. Yeah, let's do season 3. And pull up the other 2 things. Sorry, this is very riveting. Oh, and I want to check in on the mastermind too. Where are we at on mastermind? 11 mastermind clues. Okay, we're getting very, very close to that as well. All right, that's awesome. Any other questions or anything before we begin? Okie doke. Let's go to the day phase and introduce a new threat. Our new threat is actually a side threat. It is not a full-on threat. A side threat is similar to other threats, except it doesn't count as an active threat in terms of like new threats being introduced. And it has different stakes. The stakes are not necessarily dangerous, and they're not necessarily bloody and disgusting or death or anything like that. They are usually more emotional in nature. And so that is what we have today. Now, I believe we have previously in the campaign talked about Roger the Reaver. Roger the Reaver was a serial killer who used to be a resident of Hargrave House, and the conservatory was his favorite place in the house. We talked about that one time during a dust phase way back when. Well, this new threat is called the Reaver's Last Victim. Years ago, as you know, a former member of Hargrave House was captured and executed after it was discovered that he was the legendary killer Roger the Reaver. A shadow was lifted off of London back then, but some of its darkness remains to this day. The remains of his last victim, Anton Farrow, were never found. Every year, on the day of his death, one of Anton's family members has come to Hargrave House to lay down a bouquet of flowers, lacking a better place to do so. However, this year, they knocked on the door. When you opened the door, a middle-aged man, William Farrow, stood before you saying, "You know, my mother, Anton's mother, she's gotten really sick. She's old and life has taken a lot out of her. I don't think she has that much time left. I just wish she could have known, or she could know that Anton found some peace before she dies. You're supposed to be so good at this kind of stuff, and yet you've never found him. I guess you'd have to care." After delivering his speech, he placed the flowers on the ground and left. Now, I was previously going to say this is posed to the hunter who's been with Hargrave House the longest, and that would normally be Mr. Quinn, but it's actually Mr. Silvestris now. And so Mr. Silvestris, you must have known Roger personally, but still in ghost form, because this was fairly recent history, obviously. You knew Roger personally at Hargrave House. You knew him in some way. Maybe you just watched him from the shadows or from the spectral realm. You knew what he was doing long before he was caught. Why didn't you do anything about it?
I think that my ability to manifest is somewhat tied to activities of the descendant of the one who killed me. And I think that I genuinely couldn't manifest then. And so I tried in so many different little ways to hint at what was going on, but no one ever, it wasn't even like one of my hints that, finally, tripped people, like tipped him off at the end. Other people discovered other things. So I tried, but even though I knew there's nothing I could do.
I love it. It's very tragic, right? It's good. Since you're here, Mr. Quinn, you knew Roger the Reaver personally, like you knew him in person. You also knew what was going on. Why didn't you do anything about it?
I think that I couldn't be bothered. It was kind of like below my pay grade. I didn't want to like deign to lower myself to sort of get involved in that kind of nonsense. So just turned a blind eye to it.
Very good. So the question is very simple here. It's only complexity 2. And its simplicity, again, belies the fact that Hargrave House has never done anything about it, even though they totally could have. The question is, where are the remains of Anton Farrow hidden? It's a simple complexity 2. It allows you to resolve the side thread by finding the remains and letting his family lay them to rest. Now, there's a special rule for this particular side thread, which is that the information move is not available when investigating this side thread. You don't make any die rolls at all. Rather, once per day, whenever the hunters take the time to do so, or whenever a hunter takes the time to do so, you narrate a short scene where you visit one of the crime scenes of Roger the Reaver, talk to the relatives of the victims, go through official records or whatever, just something like that. And then you actually name and describe one of the victims, and then you get to define a clue that will lead to Anton Farrow's remains. And you tell me what the clue is, and let me write it down. So the idea here is we are trying to memorialize the victims of Roger the Reaver. This is Hargrave House doing penance, right? For Hargrave House's somewhat cavalier attitude about Roger the Reaver. Right? So this is sort of where we're at with that. Also, so there's a mask available called the Mask of Apathy, and that is available if you want to bump up a die roll. And the Mask of Apathy is available for any threat. You don't have to just be doing the Reaver's Last Victim. You can always tap into the Mask of Apathy one time. I'll update the sheet on the first break, but for the time being, plenty of stuff to do. This particular threat is not immediately pressing. However, if you don't resolve it in 3 night phases, Mrs. Farrow dies without ever having been able to lay her son to rest. So with all that said, Mr. Sylvestris, what would you like to do today?
I think I want to, in the spirit of the mystery we just acquired, I think I want to hang out in the sort of spiritual realm and dwell on a memory I have of one of the murders I witnessed.
Okay, when we come back to you, you got to tell us about the victim and then the connection that's the clue to where Anton Farrow's remains are. That's wonderful, thank you. And Mr. Quinn, what would you like to do today?
Oh, that's a good question. I've come back to find another friend dead. I have this blood of Julius inside of me. I feel like I want to do something reckless. Well, I don't want to, but I feel like Mr. Quinn is going to do something reckless. But I don't 100% know what that is yet.
Maybe, do you have Giveth or Taketh Away?
I
You have Taketh Away.
Taketh Away.
Go murder a side character.
Yeah, but who? I guess that's the question. Who do I want to murder?
That's how the undeniable makes himself feel better.
Yeah, I was gonna be like a happy undeniable, and that's just not.
Also,
That's not
considering the
turning
Reaper's
out.
last victim side threat, this is an incredibly ironic thing to go do, right? So, yeah,
I
it's good.
think, yeah, I want to do. I see anyone I feel like I want to murder.
Also, well, you can destroy them, not just physically. You can also destroy that person spiritually or socially as well. That could be interesting as well. So, yeah.
I feel like, is there someone connected to Mr. Taliford still kind of around that I could go and exact some revenge on?
Mr. Bell.
Yes, yes. I thought we had lost him, but I guess he's still around.
He's got his little house in Limehouse.
Yes.
And
I'm gonna go pay a visit to Mr. Bell.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I would maybe make sure that your dawn questions line up with this action, since it kind of
yeah, I haven't didn't get a chance to choose since I wasn't last time, so I'll go see what's up.
Yeah, sounds good. Green, you've got loads on your plate. What are you doing today?
I think Green, they will. So on the one hand, of course, there's still the situation with the lurker and so on. But I think Green will spend the day definitely at Hargrave House. On the one hand, I think they have they will try to get to spend some time with sometime with Mr. Quinn, who also hasn't been around, or everything has been so busy that, like basically Green, I think, is at least as long as at least until Mr. Quinn goes out. I think Green is kind of around, trying to spend time around Mr. Quinn. But on the other hand, I think the main task during the day is to kind of get Hargrave House back in order, because there's Mr. Teleford's room and there's Mr. Nelson's room, and all of these have to be kind of, there's a lot of things to deal with and to kind of update Hargrave House to this new situation. So I think that's what Green is doing.
Why don't we start with that? So frame up the scene. What's going on?
So I think there's a certain air of finality now with Mr. Nelson and Mr. Teleford and so on, which wasn't there before the first time, like in the beginning when Mr. Nelson had vanished. So I think it starts with Green kind of going through, like standing in the room, maybe in Mr. Teleford's room, and looking at what sort of things are there. And because there might, I think at the library and at some other places in Hargrave House, there's some items that of former Hargrave House residents that kind of are kept as reminders and so on. So I think Green is kind of standing there wondering what to do, like what to choose to put up maybe on a pedestal somewhere, or that sort of thing.
And out of character, what are you hoping to accomplish in the scene?
Let's see. I think I think maybe trying to see whether there are any loose threads of things that maybe Mr. Teleford or Mr. Nelson were working on or investigating, or something that they might have left behind that might be relevant, or something that Green, maybe because Green basically is there yeah, that's a good thing. Is there anything that Green, that now that they are gone, it's kind of Green's job to finish it or to kind of close down the open threads? That's
I like it. That's good. Make an information move. That's what we call it in this game. Yeah, make an information move with probably reason, I would venture to say. Yeah.
Snake eyes.
Ah, great. Oh, we shall come back to that. I have an idea for it. Mr. Sylvestris, give us the scene. What is this like in the spectral realm? What are you doing? What do you see?
So I think when Sylvestris is in the spectral realm, I like to think of it sort of as he's like in a waterfall almost, and there's little parts where he can like sort of poke his head through the water, and as it parts, like a little bit of the real world is revealed, and just like a little sliver, and it's never quite what he would like to see or where he would like to be, but like otherwise, if he settles back, there's just sort of this gentle torrent almost. I imagine for some spirits it's overwhelming, for others it's relaxing. I think Sylvestris just finds it boring, and so he's in this realm, and he's doing his usual while he's there of poking his head through in different places and trying to catch a glimpse of something interesting going on in the real world. And or I should at least say this is a real place, so the land of the living, I should say. And on one such occasion, he I think today he's just there and he's sort of using it to relax. There's been a lot of stimulation and a lot that's happened, and it's a bit almost a safe space. I mean, we ended last session with this little vignette of him spying on the mastermind, only to have her like look at him and wink. And so I think he's a little bit spooked by that. And he feels safe here, even if it is an undesirable place to be. And while he's here, I think maybe he pokes his head through and he sees that scene unfold at the steps of Hargrave House, where this message is brought and the flowers are laid. And he sinks back and he recalls a time when he was here before, many years ago, and he was observing the land of the living. And he was observing just outside of Hargrave House, that being quite literally his old haunt. He liked to see what was going on there, see what was going on with the people there. And I think on one such occasion, he was viewing sort of the outside of the building, and there's an alleyway just off to the side of the Hargrave House. And I think that the Reaver had lured a man by the name of Marcus Lowell. He's a balding accountant with a gambling problem, and the Reaver lured him there with promises of helping to eliminate his gambling debts. Of course, that promise was broken, and instead, Marcus's body was also broken there in the alleyway. And as he was sort of watching this murder unfold, I think he notices there in the window of Hargrave House, there's one of them where, this was fairly late in the evening, but the curtains are, instead of being drawn, they're actually open. And I think he caught a glimpse of Mr. Quinn seated at a table there, just sort of drinking a cup of tea and like just idly watching this happen from within. And I think that after Marcus was, disposed of by the Reaver, I think we've discussed before that he collected trophies. And so I think, we see him very carefully, remove a hand and put it in like a prepared jar where it would be, better preserved. And then with the rest of the body, I think the sort of clue here is he like binds it. There's like a nearby bag in the alleyway, and he like binds it up. But he cuts the body into pieces and he folds it up so that it can fit almost in like a package sort of shape. And he pulls out some postage and puts that on the package. And so he appears to intend to ship it somewhere.
I love it. So the clue then is, what is the clue precisely?
So I think the clue is that like the bodies were shipped somewhere. So there should be like records somewhere indicating where that one might have been shipped.
That's a great clue. Fantastic. That was a fabulous scene. Thank you. Mr. Quinn, you know of Mr. Bell's home in Limehouse. Mr. Nelson went there, Mr. Talford went there often, and you would have learned about it at some point. It doesn't look like much from the street. From the street, the front garden is in tatters and overgrown, chipped statuary and things like that, right? And it looks quite run down, boarded up windows. But the door is visibly ajar. What do you do? Oh, you're muted, Alicia.
So I have been like marching to this house with a purpose in my fabulous outfit, which is like dripping in gold with very large wings. I very purposely put on this kind of like, you know, war angel situation to make a point. And so I also have in my hand the oh my gosh, my brain is cutting out that thing that I took, the sigil flogger. I have the flogger from Mr. Salisford in my hand. And I just like walk with purpose, and I'm gonna like kick the door in. Even though it's open, I'm making an entrance. So I'm also wearing heels, obviously, nice chunky heels. And I just like kick the door in, and I try to walk through. And in a slight moment of comedy, my wings actually won't fit through the doorway, so I have to like back up and turn and then like shuffle through a little bit.
I love it. It's good. So the inside of the house, we've established that to people who are not Mr. Bell's thralls, the inside of the house looks quite rundown and dusty, you know, cobwebs, maybe more than normal in the corners, and not in great shape. And interestingly, Mr. Bell himself is sitting in the middle of the open ground floor room in a chair. He's very tall. Even sitting in a chair, he's taller than you. Or he's appearing very tall right now, very like long-limbed, and top hat that makes him seem even taller, a beautifully tailored suit, and a neat beard. And he says, well, that was certainly quite an entrance.
Well, I do try.
Mr. Quinn, I do not frequently get to interact with other immortal beings in this plane of existence, and so you should know that I consider this to be a treat.
I don't think you'll be feeling that way for long.
Oh, this is not a social call then. This is an assault.
It's a transaction.
Oh, what an interesting choice of words, Mr. Quinn, because I have detected that one of my thralls, a colleague of yours, Mr. Taliford, is no longer with us. And that makes me very unhappy indeed, and I lay the blame at Hargrave House's doorstep. And so, transactionally, I think you owe me.
In a short period of time, Hargrave House has lost 2 of its great members. And you see, you've been quite involved in our business lately. And, you know, I try generally to let others of our kind do their thing, you know, give space. But, oh, Mr. Bell, this just won't stand.
Won't it though, Mr. Quinn? Mr. Quinn, I know that you have within your body the blood of my other thrall, Julius. And because these situations are very complicated, matters of cosmic importance and contractual obligation, I can actually make demands upon you because of that. Do you deny it?
I'm going to lean in really close. I'm going to like walk up really close and like whisper in his ear, like almost in a sexual way, and just be like, Mr. Bell, I don't give a fuck.
He says, oh, you are very brave indeed, Mr. Quinn. And then he looks over his shoulder and says, I don't want much, Mr. Quinn. A servant for a servant. It's as simple enough request. And anyway, what do you care about, Green? And here you see like the scene, the shadow sort of drops away and you see Green rummaging around in the basement or in Mr. Talford's things or whatever, right? He says, just a quick trip to the fragrant void for Green and I, and you can have him right back.
I think that you fail to understand what kind of transaction we're making here, Mr. Bell. It's not a servant for a servant. It's a life for a life. And then I would like to hurt him.
I love it. It's the night move because you're in his space. And I'm putting you at disadvantage because of the blood of Julius. But if you have a personal quarters item, you can balance that out.
Yeah, I wanna plunge that sigil flodger of Mr. Talford's like right into his heart, basically.
Oh, nice. Good.
Force it in there.
I love it. So it must have some sharp component to it, right?
Yes.
That's good.
It's clearly been carved. So
yeah, I like. Oh, it's more like a switch, like a wooden switch. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mark it and roll with sensitivity.
That's going to be a 4 with the disadvantage, but I will mark a mask.
Very good. So that bumps you up to a 7 to 9. I'm going to let you kill Mr. Bell, but it's going to come at a price.
Okay.
That price is going to be the price is going to be, I'm changing, no, the price is going to be that Julius is freed from the fragrant void. That's the price. Okay. But go ahead and we'll come back to this. Think about the scene though. Mr. Sylvestris, what do you do after your spectral reminiscing?
What a good question. I think trying to see what we have left that's active. There's the Cremorne Gardens as well. So hard to decide.
Well, it's a little tricky because you have to like make special preparations to
exactly
to get things, don't you?
And the nice thing is you can always, say that those preparations have been done, of course, but
yeah, that's true.
It does add a layer of complexity for sure. I think I think actually I'm going to go back on what I said earlier, and I am going to manifest today. I'm going to spend my points. However, instead of going full made flesh, I have the option, the open door now. And now that says that during the dusk phase, could I possess an animal prior to the dusk phase and do that as my day thing?
Oh, let's take a look. The open door says during the dusk phase, mark 1 box of energy track to possess a non-human animal. While inhabiting the animal, you can leave Hargrave House and take any action the animal would be able to take. You cannot speak while in the animal, but you can communicate via physical gestures. Possession ends during the dawn phase. I'm okay with it. It is thematically, the idea is that Mr. Sylvester is just very tied to the house during the day. But I'm okay with it if you are willing to spend 2 boxes.
Okay. I'll do that. Because I want to go and I want to take possession of a raven that is out in like a nearby building to Hargrave House, and then I'm gonna make my way So above table, I'm aware of Theodora, and like, Hank was vaguely aware of Theodora and some of that stuff. But I think all that Sylvestris really has to go off of, he doesn't really know who she is. He's just seen her this one time through his mirror. I think he has like an idea roughly, sort of like, because his being here in any sort of physical way is tied to her existence. I think he like vaguely
that's right, because
knows where she is.
We established that Theodora is the descendant of the hunter that betrayed you. That's right. Okay, good. Yeah.
So I think like he has a vague idea of where she is in the city, or at least where he's scryed on her before. So I think he's just going to start like heading that way. I think he wants to go and like check out her estate, but like sort of like avoid her at all costs, but just sort of get the lay of the land. I think he's feeling threatened, and so he like wants to do something about it.
No, I like it. That's good. We'll come back to that. Green, I'm gonna let you have another information move if you want to keep following up on this. Your miss was handled by Mr. Quinn, unbeknownst to you. So, but you can keep searching if you wish, or you can take another action. What do you want to do?
I think it seems that Mr. Telford has no loose ends. So I think, let's see, I think Green, they, or at least nothing that I was aware of. Maybe there's something in the background that Green didn't see. But let's see, I think they take, I think the thing that Green's eyes fell upon is this collection of fancy handkerchiefs that Mr. Telford had, because of course, like fancy cloth and so on, that's Green's thing. So I think that's what Green gathers and kind of puts it in their room to do something with it, probably do some sort of display, and then goes over to Mr. Nelson's room to do the same kind of thing, to see whether there's anything that seems to be left over, and some threads, anything for Green to clean up, basically, both in the room and beyond.
Make the same rolls before.
That's an 8.
Very good. Let's take a look at what we have going on here. Yeah, Mr. Nelson did find some stuff related to Cremorne Gardens that was not previously shared, and I shall tell you what that is now. I better take a look at the other clues. Mr. Nelson had gotten his hands on a stack of overdue bills of Mr. Simpson's. So that is the clue. A slightly complicating factor here, which will connect up to what Mr. Sylvestris is doing.
Okay.
One of those bills, one of those overdue bills is tucked within it is a note about a debt owed to Theodora, which might be why they were so compliant when it came to throwing her party there. Not a mastermind clue, but relevant, I think. Mr. Quinn. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Quinn, go ahead and describe destroying Mr. Bell. What does that look like?
Yeah, so after I whisper seductively in his ear, I just take advantage of the closeness basically, and I take the flogger. And yeah, I feel like it had runes in it, and I feel like it was always secretly a weapon in some form. So I kind of like the switchblade idea actually. So there's like, if you press on one of the runes, it kind of like shoots out the handle. And so what I actually do is actually just put it against his chest in like a threatening motion at first, and then I hit it so that the switchblade like opens, and I just like shove it in there. And I'm in a rage. I am in a murderous, angry rage. Just there's a lot of twisting and stabbing, and I definitely ruined this outfit. Sorry, Green. I don't know if you're gonna be able to save it. And I think when it's done, I kind of just like, I actually will clean the flogger, but not myself. And then I just turn around and leave.
You get to roll Taketh Away. It's rolled with vitality, and you have to tell me, how does it make you feel?
Oh, I feel good. I feel good. Poor Mr. Quinn has been trying so hard to hold on to his humanity, and I think it might all be gone at this point. I think the blood of Julius kind of pushes.
You have to scar the reflection as well.
Yeah. That is a 7.
So scar the reflection, and on a 7, you have to choose. You get to choose one from the list. So
I'm gonna take something, since that's kind of my MO. I like to take things from people.
I love it. What are you gonna take? I can help you if you want ideas, but otherwise.
I feel like I would like to take something that's really powerful, like maybe connected to the void, since he seems to be able to access it.
Maybe like what's left over of him is like void salts, you know.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So that'd be good. Like void salts. Yeah. I love it. And you're very close to your masterwork being completely degraded, unless you take the advancement that clears out.
I'm also pretty close to being destroyed if I decide to go that way.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens.
I love it. Okay, let's go back to Mr. Sylvestris. Mr. Sylvestris. So you're at Brathwaite Hall, and it is a big spread of land. It is you just one of these like classic English country manners, right? There's a gatehouse and lots of like hunting grounds, and a couple of wings. There's probably like 100 rooms, in the whole thing. What do you do?
So the vice I chose for Sylvestris is eavesdropping. And so I'm not angling for a vulnerable move here, obviously, but I think that's something he likes to do. And so I think he's going to look for, he's most interested in like, who is here, right? Like who is here, who comes and goes from here. So he's going to try to position himself near some people. And I guess this is kind of an angling for an information move. We've established that Theodora is like related to, has her finger in pretty much all of the pies we've seen so far. So I think that maybe trying, like from a metagaming standpoint, trying to find something out related to an existing threat, or just to snoop.
And per the rules of the game, that's what will happen. So
yeah,
regardless. But I love it. Go ahead and roll with it's the information move. I think it's probably with weirdly, I think it's with vitality. So,
okay.
It's not weirdly, I don't know.
Quick perusal. Do I have any interesting
condition wise?
Nothing I would have with me as I was looking at my personal quarters. Nothing I would have with me as a raven.
I think drained might affect it though. You should roll at disadvantage.
Yes. Okay. That is such a shame because the 2 high dice are to both 6s. But 6 and 1 is 7. That's respectable with vitality plus 0. So it's just a 7.
You'll get your clue, but you will be very unhappy to know that Theodora's adopted daughter, Tatiana Brathwaite, who I don't know if we've met. Have we met Tatiana before? Tatiana Brathwaite and two of her hunting chums are stalking the ground, and one of her friends, these two, they're twins, these two twin Americans, these men, one of them says, "Look there, Toddy, look at that crow up on the eave." And she looks up and she says, "That's not a crow, that's a raven. Don't they have ravens in America?" And she says, "I've got it, don't worry." And she raises she has a rifle, and she's getting ready to shoot you. We'll deal with your clue in a moment, but I'm curious how you deal with this. What do you do?
I think I think Ebro sees this and sort of like hops back and forth the way, like side to side, the way birds sometimes do when they're like trying to figure out like how to do something. And then I think he's gonna wait till she raises the gun, and then like right as he sort of sees it lock on, he's just gonna like drop, like in a way that no bird would ever intentionally do. He's just gonna like drop with, you know, wings in tucked from the branch he's on and like fall into a bush and then try to run away that way. Just do something totally unexpected.
I love it. I'm not gonna make you roll. I actually just kind of like that as a scene, but I will tell you that the clue you find is very brief, but you actually see someone. You see Theodora, and she's been very, very still the whole time. But as you fall down, you realize that it's a waxwork of Theodora that's being either moved into Brathwaite Hall or moved out of Brathwaite Hall. It's unclear. And she looks younger, and she's in pirate garb. But that's a clue to the creature of Cremorne Gardens, is a Theodora waxwork.
Interesting.
You know, so we can note that real quick. And let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back. Okay, we're back. I think we're pretty close to wrapping up the day phase, but if anybody else has any other scenes they want, by all means, let me know. Green, did you have something?
Yeah.
Okay, start that again.
Yes, so I think Green wants to, like, we'll take like the most extravagant outfits of Mr. Telephone and Mr. Nelson's and try to make something out of that for Mr. Quinn. So so I don't know what would have been Mr. Nelson's like most like extravagant piece of clothing. I was wondering.
He definitely had some like he had like a jean vest with like an incredible amount of tassel on it.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so to kind of refit that to Mr. Quinn, I think is one of the projects that Green is engaged in, and then I mean I don't. It probably there's some sort of like black velvet or something thing by Mr. Telefort, I guess, like a cloak or something like that. That might pair with the jeans thing. Let's see.
I've definitely seen plenty of black velvet things with fringe on it in my lifetime. What do you do with them again?
So the idea is basically because, you know, like I think Green collects those from the rooms, kind of as part of this cleaning up, and then we'll start to kind of try to refit them, retailor them to fit Mr. Quinn.
Oh, intriguing.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of, yeah.
Okay, I like it. That's good. Fabulous. Mr. Quinn, did you have something you want to do?
I've just got that crown I can narrate, which I can kind of tie into this thing that just happened with Green, actually.
I love it. Is this you mean Janus Mask? Is it a past or future?
Damn it. I was writing earlier for Brenda Bootleg.
I figured as much. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a mask I can do. I marked the moss-covered gate. Narrate a scene in which you express private regret for the harm you have caused. And so I actually imagine that this scene is a little bit in the future, I guess, when I'm like receiving this gift that Green has made for me out of the clothes of our friends. And I think it moves me a lot. And I just very quietly say to Green, you know, I'm not a very nice person.
Why do you say that?
I've done
What happened today?
things, many things over the years, and you know, they didn't used to bother me so much. I mean, I'm untouchable, but now things are different.
It's always hard to lose friends, no? You mustn't worry too much.
But I've hurt people, Green, and I thought I could balance that out. But the universe, just the cosmicness of it, I guess, has just decided that I'm all bad, and I guess I am.
I think Green, they kind of look, and then they say, not sure if they really mean, like, but I'm sure you didn't mean to.
No, Green, I meant to. I think that we can probably just end it.
Yeah,
there.
I think Green stays silent.
Thank you. Sylvester, anything you want to do, or are we ready to wrap up the day phase?
I think he'll have like listened for any names he could have while he was there. But otherwise, I think after he's had a gun pointed at him, Sylvestris, I've sort of already started to build as a fairly easily spooked character. So I think he's gonna fly on home once he thinks he's clear of the mean lady with the gun.
What's it like to fly?
I honestly think that it turns Sylvestris's stomach a little bit. It's strange because, you know, as a ghost, he can certainly sort of apparate and pass through things in a way that he couldn't when he was alive. But I think he tends to more appear places than to, like, you know, fly there or anything like that. And so I think whenever he's done this, he doesn't quite have the stomach for it. Because like it's an entirely different set of sensations inhabiting this, you know, of course, this bird is very familiar with how to do this and how it feels. But like, I think there's like a disconnect for Sylvestris between any body he inhabits and his own, which I think he's most comfortable in.
Thank you. Well, let's go to the dusk phase. Are you all going to try to answer a question about Crimward Gardens now? Or you've got a fair number of clues on it if anybody has a theory. Otherwise, we can save it. There's no requirement to, but you do have 5 clues.
I think it's worth going for if we want to. What's everyone else think?
Yeah, I think we should do it. I mean, I feel like this has been around for a while, and maybe we should try to solve it.
It has been an active threat for a fair amount of time. So's Figs Pigs, for that matter. So, okay, let's review the clues then. So the music that the creature is singing, though we know now it's not a real creature, is a sad melody. We have seen historical depictions of Scrimshaw featuring a fishman creature. Again, though, this particular fishman creature is a hoax. We have the very salient clue that Simpson bought Cremorne Gardens because of a tax lien, has been trying to get other property in a similar way, and is making other aggressive real estate moves. There is also, however, a stack of overdue bills that Mr. Simpson owes. And Finally, we see a waxwork, which might imply Madame Tussauds is involved, a waxwork of a young Theodora, either being moved to Brathwaite Hall or out of Brathwaite Hall, a little unclear. We don't get that detail. 3 of those clues feel very, very salient. 2 of them seem a little harder, though I suppose the scrimshaw might have just been inspiration for the hoax. But in any case, what do we all think is going on here? The question, of course, is who did it? Who is the perpetrator?
I've got a loose theory if we want a place to start. I think that Madame Tussaud of the waxwork?
Yes, but she's dead. These are her
Okay.
kids now. Yeah, she's long dead, but yeah.
Okay. But that's a separate establishment, right, from Cremorne Gardens, if I recall? Okay.
It is.
I think then, so we can narrow this down a little bit, but I think that they, in sort of fear of being overtaken by Cremorne Gardens move and not wanting to, like, if their mother's dead and she founded it, not wanting to lose their mother's legacy, right? Not wanting to lose it to someone who would maybe not treat it so kindly or with as much respect. And so they sought to do something about what Cremorne Gardens was up to, what specifically Thomas Simpson was up to. And I think they sought out help from Theodora, or maybe she made herself available to them, made them aware that she could help them. And I think that actually, like, the arrangement of the creature is because of her, but on behalf of them.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So
like the waxwork was sort of like a payment from them to Theodora, that they made this for her.
Intriguing. And she might want to hurt Cremorne Gardens because of the debts owed to her. Is that sort of the idea?
And yeah, I'm thinking maybe that, like, Thomas has, it seems to me like he's been ignoring his debts in favor of his speculation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Theodora seeks payment.
I think
or in
that's a
this
great
case,
theory.
maybe revenge.
Adrian, Alicia, any additions or thoughts?
Yeah, I think that sounds solid to me.
I think you can probably make a pretty good case about the, like, 3 of those clues are really easy with this theory. The one about the scrimshaw and the fishman could just be explained away as, like, inspiration for the hoax, I suppose. What about that 5th clue? Is that just a red herring, or is that just a mistake or something? Like, what is that?
The music?
Yeah.
I could see a couple of ways to answer that. One would just be that, like, if you're designing something to be a spooky thing to scare off guests, if it's singing a happy tune, they're probably going to think it's part of the act.
I see. It's just part of the hoax. Okay.
Yeah. If it's a sad melody, then they're more likely to think, like, be creeped out by it, right?
Okay,
What
well, that
if
seems reasonable.
Also a message from Theodora. What if it's like a song that's associated with her? And
It's like the Reigns of Castamere in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
like when they play this song, you know you're about to die or whatever, right?
It's like it's her musical calling card.
I like that, actually. I think that's really good. It's pretty good. Maybe even Sylvestris overheard it at Brathwaite Hall just now. That could be pretty good. Yeah, I'm into that. Adrian, any thoughts or additions?
I think that's great.
All right, so that's all 5 clues. Pretty straightforward. Let's have a die roll. David, go ahead and go +1.
All right. Hey, that's 8 on the dice, +1. That's a 9.
Very good. So you will be able to resolve the threat by laying a trap for the perpetrator and unmasking them. So maybe you get to basically describe what that looks like and how that works. But yeah, it is now available to you. It might be a tough thing because of the 7 to 9, but it is now available to be pursued. Okay, let's continue on with our dusk phase. Let's talk about moves. Well, we no longer have an American move. We have day work and the ghost of Hargrave House. What do we think? Green?
So I think with day work, I think one of the things that Green gave to Mr. Quinn is Mr. Nelson's US passport. So
Nice. Very
maybe
good.
you can find a use for that. And the other thing is the ghosts or something that I took. I think that's clearly the flogger taken from Mr. Teleport. You use that right now, so so it's probably bloody and all, right? So I think like while they were talking about this whole question of having done things to hurt people, at the end I think Green took this bloody flogger and is cleaning it, and we'll see. We'll give it back at some point.
It goes into your personal quarters unmarked,
Yes.
and you can use it and then give it back to Mr. Quinn unmarked, right? So fabulous, thank you. And unquenchable thirst, let's see if that kicks in. It does not. No, your conditions are always, they're never like scars or anything. Fantastic. Okay, so let's keep going. Ooh, let's talk about Hargrave House. Oh boy, what do I want to do? We're running out of rooms. Oh, I like it. Let's do the servants' quarters. The servants' quarters, these rooms are mostly empty nowadays, though Green, I suppose, probably has space down there. Given the place's history, very few people actually want to work at Hargrave House. It's not easy to find help to go work at Hargrave House. They have most frequently been used as a place for trysts between the house's residents. What here reminds you of that?
I think there's like a full-on BDSM room down there. You know, it's got like a swing and it's got things bolted to the wall.
Harnesses,
and I feel like it's Mr. Talafer's
D-rings. Yeah. Good. Yeah, good. I love it.
There's a guest bed there that, despite like having like a little bit of dust on it, showing that like it's not super frequently used, the springs are still real worn out.
Nice, I love it.
I think there's a spy hole somewhere.
Oh, Adrian, you just dropped out audio-wise. We cannot hear you.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah.
Say something again.
Yeah, no?
You're good now, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think there's a spy hole, like somewhere in one of the walls or in the door, that it's possible to observe what is going on inside the room.
Nice. All right, let's go around the table, find out what everyone would like to do tonight, even if you don't get to do it. But what would you like to do? Green.
I think this time Green is really continuing to hang around Mr. Quinn to kind of figure out what Mr. Quinn is up to, because they don't seem to be in a good place. So I think Green is kind of trying to be of service to Mr. Quinn wherever they go, whatever they do tonight.
Well then, Mr. Quinn, what are you doing tonight?
Question. Do I know that Julius has returned to the void? Can I feel him with my blood of Juliusness happening?
Not yet. I'm going to hold on to that till
Okay.
I want.
Then
Although I'm curious about your idea. What were you hoping to do?
I feel like there's going to be a confrontation at some
Probably.
point
Yeah.
in time.
Probably.
I don't know.
I think it's probably going to be connected to the Lurker, which is another vampire currently residing in the house.
Oh, still there? I missed that last time. Do we know that the Limehouse Lurker is connected to Theodora?
Yes, you do know that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I gotta go talk to the Limehouse Lurker, actually.
Yeah, because her henchman came and was like, we want him back. Yeah, so
right.
Like,
yeah. I'm gonna go torture a vampire child, I think, for some information.
Sounds good. And Mr. Silvestris, what are you doing tonight?
I think I'm going to go and start setting up, I guess, like a Rube Goldberg machine-esque trap at Cremorne Gardens. I'm a Raven right now, so this is going to be interesting.
You can come out of the Raven form. Actually, you have to because of the phase. I think it's supposed to end, like everything ends at a different phase, but you can, unless you're interested, just keep being a Raven. That's fine, I suppose.
Well, it says usually that it's dusk until dawn, but I guess true. I did it during the day.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'll leave it up to you. Whatever you want to do, it's fine.
I love the idea of like this Raven just like collecting things from around the gardens and like slowly building this trap.
It's very good, very good. What are you hoping that like someone else will unmask the creature? Is that the idea? Like
my goal is to catch them with some trap that I have put together as this Raven in this Raven body. And then if I've captured them, I think I can pull off a mask with my beak. I'm a big bird. Ravens are pretty large.
They're big birds. Yeah, they're very large.
And if I need to like send them a message or something, maybe I'll have like prepared like a paper that I've like written on very poorly with like a claw.
I think it could be. I mean, I think probably if you unmask the creature Scooby-Doo style, there will be enough people around to be like, oh, it was all a hoax or whatever, right? So yeah. And I think probably because you know that there's a Madame Tussauds connection, you can probably begin like that might be how you know like where to follow someone from to make the trap happen, right? So that all sounds great to me. Okay, so if there's no other revisions or amendments, then we are set to go for that. Do we have any open Janus Mask prompts right now? I don't think we do. And so let's talk about the unseen. Let's do a show at Tavistock Hall. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 rows down, the third one over. A show at Tavistock Hall. I've never actually done this one. So Tavistock Hall was one of the earliest custom-built music halls in London. While the business started as a pub with a sideline and entertainers, they commissioned a space specifically for performances. The clientele sit at tables, cabaret style, and can drink and eat while watching a variety show. It is an affordable luxury for London's working class, and the crowd at Tavistock's is already lively as the show begins. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Tavistock, I don't actually know. Everyone does the first prompt. Alicia, you can have the second prompt. Adrian, you have the third prompt. And David, you have the fourth prompt. Let's take a 5-minute break. Read your prompts. We'll continue the night phase. Everyone, the audience, make their way to their seats as the orchestra begins playing. Describe one of the audience members and how we can tell they have been looking forward to this evening.
There's a guy, still pretty young, like early 30s, but already balding. They're wearing kind of like an outfit of someone working at like a bank teller, maybe like a white shirt and a bow tie. And they sit pretty close to that performance space, and they have like a beautiful red rose laying on their knees, on their legs.
Nice, thank you.
I think there's a young woman, like quite young, maybe not even like quite an adult yet, but she seems to think she is, and she's overdressed in that way that young people are, sort of in their early stages of adulthood. She's wearing a dress that's just a little too fancy, and her gloves are a little too fancy, and she sticks out in the crowd a little bit, but she has this like smile on her face, and you can see that she's taking in all the excitement of the evening.
I think there's a skilled laborer, maybe in his mid-40s. Normally, like his clothes and his boots are just like covered with grime or from whatever working site he's been on that day. But I think in anticipation of this, like the clothes he's wearing are simple, but they're actually like clean, and he only owns 2 pairs of shoes. One is like his working boots, and then one is like his nice shoes. And he's wearing his nice shoes.
I love it. Mr. Silvestris, give us the first part of the scene here as you are preparing your trap.
Yeah, I think the first part of the scene is Ambrose as this raven, just like in the background of different shots of people just enjoying themselves at Cremorne Gardens. There's like people at the dancing, hall area, just getting their groove on. There's, people at the shooting gallery doing the shooting gallery. There's people visiting the different tents full of, events and excitement. And just like in the background of each of these shots, you see this large raven sort of like either, I imagine like almost comically not at all like a real bird, like sort of like hopping like a person who's trying to like sneak behind people. And, just like leaning over and like grabbing, a chain out of someone's, from their watch that's, slung around their pocket, grabbing like a bunch of leftover BBs and stuff from the shooting gallery, and just like collecting lots of little bits and bobs before and like seeing them grab those and then seeing them deposit them in like this pile behind a tree near an intersection, probably the same intersection of the paths that before he was eavesdropping on the conversation between Thomas and his daughter, whose name escapes me.
Abigail.
Yeah, Abigail. So like just to pull back, that's probably the location he's going to build this trap.
Nice. Back at Hargrave House, Green, the lurker is hungry. I don't know if he feeds regularly or not, or what arrangements you've made, but you can hear him moaning from the bed, which I assume you have him tied down to again. He's saying, "I'm so hungry. Someone feed me."
I think the situation is that, so I think we can assume that Green regularly gets blood from that brothel. But Green, they basically always, they always wait with feeding just a little too long, just, to keep like and not cruelly long, but just like a little too long to keep them like kind
Keep him
of
subdued a little
in
bit,
the sense
right?
that,
Yeah, that's good. So
So that
you
probably
have one of
means
the sex
Green's
workers
going-
coming to basically feed
I
him,
think
essentially.
so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So no, I think Green goes and kind of picks up the blood. Like Green,
okay, got it.
Green
Yeah.
pays, I think, kind of a sizable sum always, and that's kind of, like, I mean, it's probably not the worst thing that woman does in the day. So I think, and then I think probably Green is like, it seems to be time for the lurker. Like it has been, this kind of half an hour too long, I think. And so I think Green comes in with this, maybe still using the same kind of cup that Julius used to drink from.
So
I'm coming.
yeah, Mr. Quinn, are you joining for the feeding?
I will, but I actually am going to sort of like admonish Green and be like, "Don't spoil the child, Green."
I'm sorry. Do you want to? And I think Green offers you the cup.
No, I don't want it. I want this.
No, I mean, do you want to give it to the
No.
child?
I mean, I appreciate that you think that caring for this creature is, important and valuable, and it's very in line with you, but I'm actually here to get some information, and I think it would be best if we didn't feed this thing.
If you think that is, I think Green looks at up kind of Mr. Quinn up and down, because they seem to have been in this mood already the whole day. And I think then Green kind of decides to, it takes a moment, but then Green decides it's not worth to get into like into this at the moment, especially in front of the chat. And Green kind of steps back, kind of idly holding the cup in the hand and leaving the space open for Mr. Quinn.
Yeah, that's good. Alicia, Parson Clapp is a larger-than-life caricature of a rural clergyman performed by a male impersonator in a comical bit with jokes and bawdy songs. How does the act poke fun at the establishment?
I think that there's a part of the bit that is all about this like nouveau riche family that's moved into like a rural estate. And the bit is about like how this clergyman goes to visit them and like witnesses their total ineptitude at dealing with anything, you know. Oh, there are deer. Are there deer in London? I don't know. I assume so. There's deer, and so to get rid of the deer, they clear cut all the trees, and now there's all this grass, and the deer are coming more, and you know they don't understand how to get water, and so all these little bits just kind of making fun of these rich people coming to their big town.
Yeah, it's good. I love it. So, Mr. Sylvestris, I think you will spy the creature skulking about, because you have a good bird's eye view, literally, of Cremorne Gardens, and you will spy the creature or the person dressed like the creature skulking around the perimeter. They're walking in almost like a more upright way, sort of reaffirming that it's not really a creature of the deep, right? What do you do?
I think like I'm gonna like roughly try to chart their path, seeing where they are now, knowing like that they're gonna go and try to, you know, scare, spook some people. So like sort of figuring out the path that they're gonna take to get there. And I'm gonna go and lay my trap. I'm gonna move a bunch of these little BBs and stuff that I've been collecting just like onto the path that it'll arrive at. And then I'm going to run the chain that I grabbed like across so that as they start slipping from that, they'll get like tangled up in that and fall over. And that's most of the trap.
I like it. Let's have the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm I'm afraid that I'm afraid that like they're just not gonna fall over and become vulnerable, because like I'm a raven right now. There's not much I can do if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's going to be worse than that. I think they don't fall over, and in fact, I think they just run off and they're lost for the evening. So let's have that move. I think it's going to be vitality.
Okay.
And at disadvantage because of drain.
All right. So then that makes it a 7. And I think I'll upgrade it.
Okay. Mark your Janus mask. We'll come back to that. So, Mr. Quinn, are you going in to the room?
Yes, I am going into the room. We decided that this was a while ago, so we decided that it was a young vampire in a young child's body.
Yes, it is a boy, yeah, who just happens to be a vampire. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like he's not that's why he can't resist green, because he's, you know, I think Theodore was teaching him some of his like tricks, you know, at the farm or whatever, but yeah, he's otherwise but just a boy.
All right. Yeah, so I'm gonna walk in. I'm still wearing what I was wearing earlier, and it's got like Mr. Bell's blood on it, I guess. And I walk into the room and I say, "Child, I'm sure you think that you're very powerful. But
Boy. He looks at you and says, I'm very hungry.
do you get hungry often?"
Yes. Mrs. Brathwaite let me feed on the servants, and when they ran out, she sent me to the farms. outside the city.
She didn't provide you with any regular sustenance then.
I think she thought it was right that I should go out and hunt or learn to.
Did anyone ever hunt with you?
There was another one like me who taught me some things.
Do you remember their name?
Green, you'll be aware of a tap, 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 tap at the window outside of the room, which is on the second floor, by the way. Tap, 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 tap. What do you do?
I think while Mr. Quinn talks to the boy, I think Green kind of quietly slips over to the side to the window to look what's going on there.
You see Julius floating at the window, and his voice is muffled because he's on the other side of the window, but he says, "Will you please let me in? My former standing invitation does not work anymore."
I think Green turns around, doesn't react to Julius, turns around, and says to Mr. Quinn, "It seems we have another visitor, one of his kind, the one who lived here before with us."
I very quickly pivot around to sort of look at what's going on. And I say, do not, under any circumstances, let that monster in this house.
Certainly not.
He says,
And
I can hear you. I
and I
have
think-
enhanced hearing.
Green kind of looks out the window and kind of with mouths, even though they can hear with mouths, something like I cannot.
He says,
And just turns around with the back to the window to kind of block like the side, just the back to the window, kind of blocking.
good.
You know.
We shall come back to that. Let's go back to Tavistock Hall. Adrian. The Aldich Amazons are a pair of twin sisters who have devoted themselves to athletics and bodybuilding. What feats of strength and endurance do we see them perform, and how do we see they take pride in their bodies?
So I think the special thing about the Aldich Amazons are that one of the twin sisters has like very strong and trained legs, and the other one has a very strong trained upper body. So they're kind of like specialized in this way. And so they do all of these artistic feats where they always try to kind of complement these differences. And I think like the last number that they do, I think one of them kind of holds the other up so that she almost kind of floats above the audience. And I think that's when this the person that was sitting there before stands up and then kind of offers the rose to one of them, and she takes it with her mouth, and then everyone claps.
Very good. We'll love it. So, Mr. Silvestris, you will catch the creature of Cremorne Gardens. Give us the scene. What does it look like?
Yeah, so I think the creature is skulking along the path. And I think this is just off the main route. Like there's people milling about past some bushes only, 20, 30 feet away. No one has noticed the creature yet as it starts on its way up. And then right as it arrives at this intersection, it takes a step forward and like lands in the first patch of these little balls. And I imagine that they don't, inside this costume, they don't have super great visibility, and it's nighttime right now on top of that. And so they just like their feet start to slip on the pavement. And as they stumble forwards, trying to get off whatever is, tripping them up, quite literally, there's the chain, stretched across. And as their feet like hit it, it's like the points holding on either side where it was under tension snap, and it sort of swings in and wraps around their ankles like a bolo. And they just fall face forwards onto the ground now, moaning a bit from the weight of it all. And as they're lying there, immediately Ambrose, hops over in his raven form, and like starts just pecking aggressively at the neck of it, trying to pull the mask off. And in between pecks is just like cawing really loudly for people nearby to notice.
Very good, very good. I know what Mrs. Brathwaite is trying to do. Don't you want to know what I know? Don't you want to invite me into the house?
I think I'm going to, I assume that like, because we have this vampire child in the house, we also have, and we all know how to kill vampires, we have like the accoutrement around that we would require for safety. And
Sure.
I'm going to like grab this child by the hair. I am not treating them like anything. And like a stake, and I'm just going to walk up to the window, like where Julius is, and just like threaten to murder this child.
Oh, I don't recommend you do that at all. That's a very, very bad idea.
Why? We hunt monsters. This is a monster.
Because that's what she needs you to do. It's all very complicated, and it's all connected to one of Judas's pieces of silver and cursed blood and destroying the bloodline of kings and queens. It's very, very, it's a lot.
Julius has lied to me every interaction we have ever had. And so I think I'm going to murder the vampire child.
Agreed.
I think so I think green, yeah, I think they, let's see what, so I think green takes, I think green takes out, so I think I'm going to use my person Friday and have this this hood that used to capture the boy, and kind of take that to put it over. So I try to intercept in a sense like, don't do that here, and try to like, let's do it. I mean, don't give up the leverage we have. I think I should take this child out of your. I think we have to deal with this one outside there first.
This is a pretty tense moment. What, Quinn, how do you react?
That bloodlust is so strong. But I feel like green is maybe like there's just enough of my connection with green that I pause long enough for green to like get the hands on the child. And I say, fine, take it away. And then you meet me outside. And I look at Julius and I'm like, this ends.
Julius calls out to the hooded boy. It says, I think you technically live there now. You've been here for a number of days. Why don't you invite me in? cut away. David Sartini, the superlative, is an illusionist whose performances inspire wonder in the audience. What about his act demonstrates he may have some real knowledge of mystical traditions?
Yeah, I think as that's the thing. I don't think he steps out onto the stage. I think he is carried out like an attendant under either arm, and his feet are already bound with this like heavy chain with a lock on it, and they like place him in on a pedestal. And I think the signs we see that maybe he's familiar with some real ritual is he pulls out of like one of his pockets with his free arms this like little bag of salt that he then pours in that same circle that we've seen Taliford do a dozen times here already, and a lot of the words he says are if they're not the same, they sound very similar to those that Taliford has muttered in the past in some of his incantations. And as he like raises up into the air, from our perspective clearly on a wire, we see him like pull his legs to the side and like snap the chain and come back down and continue his act, and it's a whole thing.
I love it. So the creature of Cromorne Gardens is unmasked, Scooby-Doo style. The Simpsons are shocked to see that it is it's one of the two-sewed sons. And there's a big hubbub, everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's the creature, all this stuff is happening. What are you doing?
I think after like plucking this mask off and attracting attention to the area, I think like maybe this two-sewed son is like struggling to like get the mask and like get it back on and like get out of there. And he's like, finished pulling off the chain that was wrapped around his ankles and like clearing off the little balls from the roadway. But like I have the top of the mask in my beak, and every time he like swipes for it, I like hop another few feet back and like just stay out of range so he can't get it. And I'm like letting the crowd grow larger because like as he's stumbling about, fighting with this bird trying to get the mask back, more and more people are being drawn by the cries of people to like this spectacle that's happening.
The threat is resolved. Green, Julius is trying to use a loophole here to get into Hargrave House. If the boy invites him in, it might work. What do you do?
I think because Green has put this hood over the boys, and I think in this moment, I think Green tries to, because there might be like a cord to tie it shut, and I think Green tries to basically quickly like pull this cord so that it cuts off the air.
How about the night move? What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Well, that the boy can speak the invitation.
Yeah, and I think it's worse than that. Julius will fly in and he'll be pissed about his treatment. And so I want the night move with, so it has to be a sensitivity. And I think, so Theodora wants the lurker back. I'm gonna put you at disadvantage because of that. So.
Well, I guess the hood probably serves as, because that's the object I took from my person Friday. So yeah, so it's a straight roll, I guess, and there's 0 plus. It's an 11.
Ah, very good. You will succeed. Describe how you keep Julius out.
I think it's really like until this moment, Green has been kind of trying to keep the child from being really hurt, but he almost kind of freaks in this moment and really like draws these cords so shut that the child just like quietly kind of and then is quiet and kind of falls to the ground like a lump sack of hay or whatever. And I think Green picks them up as quickly as they can and kind of almost run out of the door and leave Mr. Quinn and Julius outside.
Julius is still talking to you through the window, Quinn. He says, "This isn't over, Mr. Quinn. I'm inside of you. You're never going to be rid of me. And Mrs. Brathwaite wants that boy back very, very badly."
Sorry, on the way out, I think Green passes the flogger back to Mr. Quinn, kind of like that.
He's still outside the house. He can't do any harm, but he's just taunting you, Quinn. What do you say?
I'm just gonna say, well, she's not getting him back. And then my goal is to run out of the house and like go under the window where he is outside.
He'll be long gone by the time you do that. But I do want you to scar your reflection because you were willing to kill the boy.
I still might.
Fair enough. Let's that ends the night phase. Let's take 5 and we'll come back and do a dawn. We have some scenes to do with dawn. So. It's the dawn phase. Collect rewards if a threat was resolved. It was. I have clipped the rewards section of the Creature of Cromwell Gardens and put it in the chat for you all. There's only one special one. The rest are just mementos from the investigation, but everyone gets to make a choice. So have at it. Actually, the first one might not even be available because I think only Mr. Taliford talked to Greco. Did anybody else talk to Greco? I don't think it did. So actually, it's just a memento then from the investigation.
I think Ambrose takes the dorsal fin from the costume. I think it's like a real fin of some kind.
Nice. You're supposed to ask another hunter, but
oh,
you can ask me and I'll let you have that.
Okay.
Or ask
I
another.
forgot.
Yeah.
Yep.
No. That's perfect. Green or Quinn?
Mr. Quinn, what did Green?
One.
What did okay. I think so what was the whatever instrument was used to play this melody? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe it was like something. Would a theremin have been invented yet? No, let's look it up.
It doesn't have to be historically accurate.
That's true, but I'm just curious now. So,
let's say a weird, kind of.
It's not for another like 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But like a weird instrument. Yeah, that's like just like let's keep it like that. I think it's like a weird musical instrument. Yeah, strange musical instrument. Yeah. So what does, because I don't think Green takes something, so rather Mr. Quinn probably gives Green something.
I think I'm just like going back over the stuff here. I want to give you some kind of fabric, maybe actually from Madame Tussauds exhibit. You get some like rare, strange fabric you've never seen before.
Intriguing. Oh, maybe it's like some kind of netting woven with something.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah,
like woven with seashells or something, because they were doing like a Horrors of the Deep exhibit too.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Let's go to dawn questions. I heard lots of echoes of the night. So Green, everybody answered. We answered a question and resolved the threat, so everyone's getting the first 2. And then Green, I think you had an echo of the night with the floating sister, correct? Is that what you were going for?
Yeah,
I thought so. Did you demonstrate obsequious behavior toward your employer in front of others?
Maybe when Green wanted to feed the boy and stepped aside to let Mr. Quinn do them like right away. Basically, Mr. Quinn said like, no, this is like, don't feed them, and this is my thing here. This is my scene. So and
Oh yeah,
Green
I kind of
stepped
like
away.
that. It was
Maybe,
in front
yeah.
of the boy too, so I'll take that. Did
Yeah,
you
that's what I
subtly
like.
express sexual desire for your employer in the way you dress them or serve them?
I don't think so.
Mr. Quinn, did you experience Neko in the night? I believe you did. Oh, you're muted.
I don't think I did.
Oh, did you not? Oh, I thought for some reason you might have been inadvertently, because I feel like I noted everyone.
Maybe.
did.
I didn't intentionally
You
do
did not
that.
intentionally. Did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so?
No, I was angling for it, but first I got too excited about stabbing, and then I got interrupted by Julius. So
You did get the last one, however, the avant-garde fashion mark. So take that one. And Mr. Silvestris, you got Neko in the night with the chains, I recall, and also floating, I believe. And did you add to the list of secrets you collect on your fellow hunters?
Yes, I noted it was both expressed above the table, but then also I expressed that Ambrose knows that Mr. Quinn was not actively complicit, but did nothing despite knowing of the murders of the Reaver.
Did you utilize the past to solve a problem in the present? Yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Or to help solve one, at least. Very good. And that's Dawn questions. You can mark new ones if you wish. There are no playbook moves we have to do. So that just leaves Janus Mask and the Masterwork changes as well. So whoever wants to, who needs to do something, by all means, go for it.
I do have a Mask of the Past too.
If you're ready, go for it.
Yeah, I am. So the Mask of the Past I marked is my first one. Narrate a flashback to when you were alive that shows you battling and destroying a monstrous threat on behalf of Hargrave House. So the scene I think we start with this is we're in a room that's fairly well lit because of large windows and its stone walls. There's a huge circular table, and on it there's a topographical map drawn by hand. You can tell like it's very, very old by today's standards. It's the style is that of you would expect from like a cloistered monk in an illuminated work. It's that kind of drawn map, and you can see Ambrose as he appears normally when he manifests in the modern day. You see him standing there in his regalia, next to on either side people who can only be described as like medieval knights. And he's pointing with a stick at different things on this topographical map, explaining some sort of plot to them. And then we, cut from there. The map is replaced by the actual overview, bird's eye view of the place. And we are there. And on either side of like a pass between some boulders, you see Silvestris and then one of those knights sort of on either side with a rope between them lying on the ground, lying in wait. And then walking down this path is this giant with a club with, a series of heads on their belt. And as they walk in front of them, they pull the rope taut and they trip them up and they fall over, and the other knights befall them. And it's a bloody battle, but the giant is vanquished, and like they all clap each other on the back and raise a glass and move on to the next adventure.
Love it. Any other Janus Mask, or do you want to do the Masterwork, Quinn?
Yeah, I can do the Masterwork. I think I am. Ooh, we're dangerously close to revealing the Masterwork. I elected not to erase those boxes. And so I think at this point in time, the Masterwork is, because it's a statue, I think it's starting to crumble. Like pieces are like starting to fall off, and they're sitting kind of in rubble at the bottom of my feet.
The jig is almost up when it comes to Mr. Quinn. Very good. Is that it for Janus Mask and stuff? I think it might be. And so that concludes the session. A little early, but there's only 3 players. So that's not surprising. We have a brand new player joining us next time. I have put a call out on Discord, so They will be joining us for the next session. I am going to need you all to do a little bit of homework beforehand, though, because I'm making the brand new playbook, the Legacy, available to that player. And I'm also going to make the Vessel available again because we never did the Coven storyline with Mr. Taliford. So I think it's okay to have a Vessel again. And so because of that, however, we will have to have a brand new character keeper. So I'm going to set up a brand new character keeper with the new stuff in it. I just need you all to transfer all of your information to that new one. So we'll do that, but I'll send that to you before the week is out. And let's go to Stars and Wishes. I'll start today. I had a really great time. This is a great session. It was, it's interesting because this campaign, more than the other campaigns, we're getting kind of like, there's a lot more like characters leaving Hargrave House and entering Hargrave House, and that's very, very interesting to me. And it's working really well. It makes me happy that the game works great in that context, and so that makes me happy. As far as like the actual session today, very, very happy with that encounter between Mr. Bell and Mr. Quinn. I thought that was terrific, and I like how, Alicia, you sort of leaned into the fundamental danger of that moment and invited all the stuff that came with it. I thought that was really, really fun. So yeah, a lot of fun with that. I always enjoy seeing Green at their most parochial, or just like doing their day-to-day work, you know, so that was really enjoyable. And the Raven was very, very entertaining. That whole sequence was very fun. It was really interesting because it's funny, because I think that the Unquiet as written is a geographically limited character, theoretically, right? Like they are bound to the house. But as we saw today, that's not actually true. If you're willing to like role play a little bit, you can put yourself in situations where you have lots of mobility. You went to Brathwaite Hall and back, right? So that was really great. I enjoyed that a lot. And other little stars, I loved that Janice Maskey just did, David. That was terrific. I liked that it sort of echoed how you caught the creature of Cremorne Gardens. That was fun. And so yeah, that was very enjoyable. I really loved the role play between Julius and Green and Quinn. I thought that was quite fun. Julius is just such a pain in the ass character. Like, and I'm happy he's been rescued from the Fragrant Void. So yeah, loved all that. It was great. And Wishes, we're getting very, very close to the mastermind threat. So I am hoping I can stick the landing on this 30 pieces of silver plot line. We'll see how it goes.
I definitely star for Julius's return. What a consequence. Julius is just the thorn we cannot be rid of, and I love him for it as much as he is detestable. I really liked the return in this session of like the Quinn and Green dynamic, of you know, Green taking care of the stuff that Green does, and Mr. Quinn, just as soon as they're on the scene, like totally taking control of the situation, and also having this like little touching moment of Mr. Quinn opening up about the fact that, you know, maybe they've been kind of terrible, and maybe that's the reason that the people they've cared about have, you know, perished or went away.
Yeah, star for me on that too. That was great.
Mm-hmm. And only to then circle around later from that and have you ready to stab this child, and Green's like, I
know, just like completely went out the window, like, like I felt bad for a hot minute, and now I don't.
But that was just like very, very Mr. Quinn, and I loved that bit. I thought that was great, and how that all just tied together was really good, I thought. Oh, and I guess I'll do wishes after.
No, I also liked all of these dynamics. I think it was interesting because in the end, I mean, in the end, it was Green who hurt the child, kind of being pushed to do that. I think that was great. The other thing I think was that because in a certain sense, this probably was the first time that Green kind of stepped in against the wishes of Mr. Quinn for something, and so that was a kind of tense moment because that might lead to future. So I think that's one of the wishes in a certain sense to explore kind of, okay, what does that mean for their relationship that now that Green has kind of become not just the person to fulfill everything that Mr. Quinn says, but to kind of step in this moment to go against their wishes in a certain sense. I think that's an interesting dynamic.
I have another star real quick. It is a star, but it's also really more of an observation. I think it's really interesting how dehumanized the Limehouse lurker is. Like, they're literally not human anymore, so that's fair, I suppose. But I think it's interesting that we have never named the character. No one's ever asked the boy his name. I think it's interesting that everyone was so willing to kill him, or at least and to hurt him, right? And he's just clearly being used in some sort of as an object by Theodora, right? Like, just the sort of like dehumanization of the lurker is really, really interesting to me, especially since we know it's a boy, right? Like, it's not an ancient vampire, right? And so Green was the only one. So ironically, when Green is the one who is showing any kind of like kindness or consideration for the boy, Green's the one who had to hurt him at the end, right? So I thought that was really great. Yeah, just an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, one of my stars was going to be to you, Jason, for setting that up, right? For putting Green in that tough spot of like trying to save the boy, and now like, oh shit, what do you do? That was like, I think that's like the moments of this game that
when it was such a Julius. It's such a Julius-ass thing to do too, right? Because Julius knew what he was doing, right? Like, Julius knew that, like, like he either he was going to get in on this technicality, on this vampire technicality, or he was going to force Green to do something that Green didn't want to do, right? So
and also star to the Raven. I fucking love the Raven so much, particularly the moments where you were doing non-Raven things were like the parts that sold, because it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm a Raven, I'm gonna fly around like a Raven, but then to like sort of inject that little bit of like humor and absurdity into the game, I think was really, really excellent. And can I star just everything that's happening with Mr. Quinn? My star is for the game pushing me in ways I wasn't expecting. I came in with like a particular idea of how I wanted to play the undeniable, and have just ended up.
Well, and you've made like the really critical undeniable choice, right? Which is the masterwork's almost finished in terms of degradation, and you have actively decided to not clear it, right?
Yes.
Like, so you are on the path of like that resolution, right? Which I think is great.
Mr. Quinn, I think, is going to be retired next session. So like, if we're getting into
which means Green will be also. So yes.
We're getting into wishes. I'm really interested to see how that goes. And also, that's an interesting point. So one of the things, I mean, I had the humanity storyline, which ties into these like characters coming in, because now there's this whole new house of people. And
yeah, because if you retire next session, Green will be forced to retire at the same time, and we'll have a brand new player. And Mr. Silvestris is fairly new, so it's going to be like a whole new Hargrave House, right?
Yeah.
Facing off against Theodora, which is really weird. But I guess it kind of is okay, because Theodora is ultimately, we've learned, is ultimately Ambrose's hunt, right? I mean, so it's intriguing. Yeah, super intriguing. Adrian, how do you feel about Green being retired with no control over that? Possibly.
It's probably fitting the dynamic of that character, but yeah, I mean, this is I'm wondering, so because the thing is, I mean, Green doesn't have to die, right? So this is an interesting side. That just because this I knew that, but I hadn't realized, like, yeah, of course that's going to happen.
So it's about to happen, right? Yeah.
So, but for me, the interesting thing about this kind of from a player perspective is that in a certain sense, it's because it's not green. So as a player, basically, apart from the fact that I can't really do anything about it, but it's not so much that green has to kind of fight against their death, but as they're against their sidelining from the story, which is something that basically green doesn't know. Like that's something, green doesn't really care about that. It's the player that
it's
cares.
a player
and that's
consideration,
kind of,
right?
Yeah. So how?
Because green doesn't go away. Green stays at Hargrave House. Yeah, he's just not a player character anymore. Yeah.
That's
I think
interesting.
also it's going to be so interesting just because we've just delved into this tension now of like Green starting to push back against Quinn, and like next session that's pretty much going to be it. So we have, I guess, a wish is we have that short amount of time to address that.
It's almost unavoidably so, like, because you only have one mark left. I don't know how you avoid it. I mean, unless you go become an altar boy for for the whole session. I don't know how you avoid it, so
well, and it also like just I think the way that my where we've left Mr. Quinn at this point in time, like totally unhinged, fueled by the blood of Julius, I don't even think it would be logical to try to avoid it. I
think it's super interesting that, like, no, it wouldn't at all. I think this is the exact right way for the story to go. But I think it's interesting that, like, what Mr. Quinn can't. It almost seems like Mr. Quinn can't admit that the reason why he's in this spiral, or they're in this spiral, is because he lost his friends, which is, kind of sad.
Yeah, I definitely had among my wishes, like, I really want to see how specifically the Green Quinn relationship gets sort of resolved in those final scenes we get with them, because like it has definitely felt, it's been a really slow burn from the start, but it definitely feels like we have these sort of dueling character arcs that now by mechanical designation have to meet. And so I'm really excited to see how that goes. It means, like, man, not quite back to back, but it means in very close succession, we're going to have 2 like double character sign-offs.
Yeah, 4 characters signing off. Like, it was like Mr. Nelson, then Mr. Tallifer, then it's pretty.
But it all feels, to me, it feels like it all makes sense in the story.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I do think like Theodora kind of wins a little bit because, there's not much of her original foes at Hargrave House standing, but I don't think she's aware of the time bomb that is Ambrose Sylvestris. So, but yeah.
As a player, I'm also really excited for a new character to come in and be able to like better interact with Sylvestris, because I feel like Quinn has had this wall and not really been able to make this connection because of being in their own space. So as a player, I'm really excited to come in and like forge new connections.
Yeah, it'll be almost like, especially with a brand new player joining us, it'll almost be like, it's like a reset, right? It's like it really is kind of like it's almost like it's season 2, right, of the show essentially, right? Which I think is really, really intriguing.
One other thing that we can do, of course, next time is try to get Theodora already next session. So that could be like the player.
If you like. I mean, well, it would be hard because you actually have to wrap up all active threats and then before you can do the mastermind threat, right? But
unlikely, but
that would be a hard thing to do. But
I could do like a showdown though, like it's like a doomed. We all know we're going out, but like we're gonna.
You can let her win.
Fighting.
I mean, you can let her defeat you. I mean, that's a thing. Yeah, well, anyway, that's great. Yeah, I'm super excited. The implications of everything is like really coming to a head right now, and the story is in an interesting place. Any other stars or wishes before we go?
Only other wish I had is that I'm just very excited. I wanted to start dumping on some of these Masks of the Past to throw some of the Ambrose tie-ins out there, because I'm especially realizing as it's starting to become apparent what you're doing with Theodora, Jason, that I think how my tie-ins I think are going to dovetail really nicely with that.
Oh, we also, doesn't your Mask of the Past also require you to it says your Mask of the Past says after resolving each entry, ask another hunter to define an object from the scene and add it to their personal quarters. It's your leftover stuff.
Oh shoot, where's that?
That's in the little paragraph before the actual entries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like basically Green or Quinn get to something from that giant killing scene.
Yeah, I think
ended
this
up-
would make sense that Green would maybe have something from this that he's
Yeah.
collected from the house over time. What do you think that is?
Mm, that's a good question.
Well, we could resolve it next time too. If you want to think
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, let's do that.
Um,
Let's come back to that next time.
okay, great. Well, fabulous session. Had a great time. Very excited to see how some things wrap up next week. I'm going to stop the recording now.